Welcome to another edition of Transform Your Life. I was thinking the other day about what is it that blocks us, prevents us from experiencing the happiness and well-being, life fulfillment that is really our birthright to experience in this lifetime. What is it that blocks us from that? And so we really need, and therefore I'm going to do it this morning or today, whenever you're watching this. I want to mention the T word, which is trauma. When many people hear or see that word, they immediately dismiss it, thinking, oh, that doesn't apply to me. And that is because for the longest time, this word trauma has been reserved for big incidences, big experiences, like having been a soldier in combat or having experienced a fire, losing your house in a house fire, having been in a plane crash, survived a plane crash, big things like that. And and so if we haven't experienced those things, we just think, oh, I haven't had any trauma in my life. So here's what happened with me. I started thinking about this because I'm a licensed mental health therapist. I've been actively practicing for over 30 years. And I'm thinking about over 98% of all the clients that I've seen in my decades of work as an outpatient mental health therapist. Over 98% of them had trauma. And so I'm thinking, how is this possible that 98% of people, of all my clients, have had trauma? And so it got me interested in this, and I went back and took a lot of specialized training in trauma, and including I've become an EMDR specialist. And EMDR, for those of you who don't know it, it's just an acronym for a kind of treatment that is specialized to treat trauma. And it has the most amount of research proving its effectiveness than any other form of trauma treatment in the mental health field. So I went back and got all kinds of specialized training in this. And it was from my training in EMDR that I learned about two types of trauma. The first type I've already mentioned. It's for big horrific events. That's what is known in the EMDR community as big T or capital T trauma. But there's also something called little t traumas. And these turn out to be just as powerful, just as influential and toxic in a person's life, can be, than big T traumas, just as powerful, and sometimes even more so. So what are little t traumas? Little t traumas are things that are often experienced solo when you are by yourself or maybe with one or two other people. And they are especially toxic when they happen in childhood. I'll give you some examples of this. A little t trauma would be an adult who as a child was told, I wish you were never born, by a parent. An adult who as a child was told, you're worthless or you're stupid. It's amazing the effects that these kind of things have. It could be an adult who as a child was repeatedly ignored, left out, dismissed, rejected. And the reason it's so powerful when we're children is because the part of our brain that can help objectify what's going on in our life and try to make sense of it hasn't even developed yet. That's our neocortex, neo meaning new, frontal part of our brain. Hasn't developed yet. So when these things are happening to us, when we're experiencing them as the little kids, we take the whole thing in. We just buy it, hook, line, and sinker, and we personalize it. We think it's all our fault. Something's wrong with us. And it leads to really negative feelings about ourselves as people. And the amazing thing is that these negative self-statements, so to speak, start to be developed as early as age one, and many times by age 6 are set. The majority of them have been set right there, right then. And again, it's happened before our helpful part of our brain can help explain those things to us and take away its personalization power. So it's amazing what this can set up, because these negative self-statements that we have, and these are all subconscious. It's not anything we're consciously aware of. They're subconscious, but being spoken to like that, being treated a certain way, over and over. These are little t traumas that can have so much power and be really devastating to a person's self-concept. It determines the self-statements, many times negative self-statements, that we end up feeling subconsciously about ourselves. And as I've mentioned previously in some of my articles, some of the most common negative subconscious self-statements are things like, I'm not important, I'm unlovable, I'm not valuable. And these go on to be the lens out of which we see ourself, other people, and their supposed perception of us, and life. That's pretty powerful. That's the whole thing. So if we're viewing things from that perspective, you can imagine how that will set a person up to have problematic depression, anxiety, and maybe even be, the list goes on and on. Some of the other things are behaviors of perfectionism, phobias, the list is plentiful, believe me. So I mention this because little t traumas, the vast majority of us experience them, and some people more than others. And for some people, they were more powerful and more toxic than others, more consistent than others, and therefore influence a person's life much more in terms of blocking them from happiness and fulfillment. So I encourage you to think about that going forward and be curious about it in your life, because understanding your little t traumas can make all the difference for you in helping explain and make sense of why you feel the way you do, why you may have had or currently have problems with depression and anxiety. And so much can be done with that to turn around and heal these things. But the first thing is to think about it and try to recognize, what are the little t traumas you may have experienced. It would be a wonderful thing, time well spent, for you to think about this and maybe do some journaling or writing about it, but then seek some help by a professional therapist who's trained in trauma work. So much can be done to heal these things and open you up to a brand new level of joy and fulfillment and happiness. That's what I wish for you going forward. I hope this has been helpful. See you next time.